Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another zombie entry. I even got a very old zombie shirt of mine here. Keep calm and kill zombies. For any of you who have been around my channel for a little bit now, know I've been working my way through some Romero. So I had seen Night of the Living Dead several times in the past, and I'd even put up a video of Elvira's presentation of it in the 2010 iteration of her movie Macabre. I had finally gotten around to revisiting the original Dawn of the Dead, which I hadn't seen in so long. I'd pretty much remembered none of it. And then I got around to rewatching Day of the Dead, which is always a favorite of mine. I put up that video a couple weeks ago, so be sure to be on the lookout for those too if you want to check them out. But for this one, I've just now revisited Land of the Dead from 2005, which I hadn't seen since probably around 2010, I would say. So it's been a good while. But yeah, this is the fourth one in the series. But what is this one about? Well, the synopsis is as follows. The living dead have taken over the world, and the last humans live in a walled-in city to protect themselves as they come to grips with the situation. So I didn't really see any direct ties to the previous films, nothing that I noticed, but just a story later down the line. And zombies are just a part of daily life now. There are these sanctuary areas. This one has a big high-rise for some rich people. People go on supply runs and so forth. It's just what the world has become after Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. This is where we are at this point. So no real direct city or character connections that I picked out. There may have been some hidden things, but we still have this underlying current of class separation and consumerism kind of flowing about. But this one has a lot more of the class side of that division than the ultra consumerist that Dawn of the Dead had really gotten into. The class division in this one is in the form of this skyscraper and the life outside of it. While one character played by John Leguizamo is trying to kind of buy his way in via a character played by Dennis Hopper, who lives in this tower, thinking he can do enough special favors, save up enough money to just buy a place, while Hopper still wants to keep him kind of in what he considers to be just his place in society and not a part of that building. But anyways, the main story of this, of course, is these characters who do these supply runs are trying to get out of their situation, just move on from this town, or in the case of Leguizamo's character, move up into this high-rise. Because we have one, Leguizamo trying to buy his way to the top, another one trying to buy a vehicle to leave. And things are not going well as, one of them ends up going rogue and trying to kind of hold the city hostage and so on. We get bad stuff such as these zombies really complicating things quite a bit. And, it comes down to how does one get help in defending this city that's being held hostage, especially when one of the people who they want help from is simply trying to get a vehicle and take off entirely. It's kind of tricky. But we do have some other interesting aspects in this one that stuck out. Adding to the mythos, they have this idea of the sky flowers, which is setting off these fireworks that with the bright light and loud sound, it distracts zombies who are nearby. They'll be attracted to that noise and light. So you go out on a supply run, set off some of these to kind of distract them. And they're also building off of some of what we saw in Day of the Dead with these kind of smart zombies, or at least ones that are able to learn. As a reminder from Day of the Dead, there was a doctor who was doing these experiments, and he was showing that zombies will remember a little bit of their life before they were a zombie, and that they can learn things. They can be taught or kind of domesticated. This one builds that out a little bit more, showing, for instance, musicians who are still kind of playing their instruments, or more importantly, this service station worker who is still coming out to pump gas even though there's no cars there. And this one's probably the biggest thing, this service station zombie who's learning to look away from the sky flowers, learning how to figure out problems, even use weapons and so on. Even caring for the well-being of other zombies and teaching them how to do similar, how to use their weapon, how to look away, making them a bit smarter and much more dangerous. I've heard that some really did not like that. They want their zombies to be mindless, and I get that, and I agree to a point. Because while I like a sequel or another film in a universe, building off what came before and expanding it out, mixing things up, there are enough routes to go without, by the end, developing these feelings of empathy for the zombies. They kind of could have done without that. And, you know, not to go too much into like negative territory here, because I did enjoy this one overall. I think that the learning and empathy portion did drag things out a bit. Not in length as much as, you know, because it was only about 95 minutes long, but mainly in the pacing of how everything was put together. I would have preferred, you know, a lot more time kind of on the rest of the characters, so we have deeper feelings about who we like, who we hate, less zombie action in that first 2/3 of it, so we don't get desensitized to the violence and the action and the gore, and then hit us with that zombie awesomeness as we get into that third act. And even though that would kind of make it a copy in style to Day of the Dead, but it worked for me, and I would have liked to have seen that here. Like I said, this one stumbled in the pace a little bit. It felt a lot longer than it was, but like I said, overall I did enjoy watching it. It does have some interesting characters who are well portrayed. We got a really great setup with the city and the skyscraper, the people within that skyscraper, and how people within the city down below live and get by. Stuff about just their day-to-day life, the oppression they're living through, distraction aspects of what they do for entertainment to get through, and all of that. You know, building out the idea that these supply runs with these sky flowers and this giant Dead Reckoning vehicle, as they call it, to do these job runs was really interesting. And of course, with having Savini, Nicotero, and Berger doing the practical effects of this, which were balanced really well and sparingly and appropriately, and like the digital side was kind of sparingly and appropriately used in conjunction with those physical effects, we really did have some good gore and effects in this one. Like I said, a lot of really good balance, both in how they executed it and how gruesome they were able to pull off some of these effects. And while I would say that this film does have, in my personal opinion, you know, a few problems, all the good stuff outshined most of the issues that they had, and while far from perfect, this one is still more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out my latest video here for Land of the Dead from 2005, which at the time of this video is available only on paid rental for some reason. I'm kind of surprised about that. I watched it on Blu-ray. I have this one that has the remake of Dawn of the Dead and Land of the Dead. It was really cheap, worth checking out. If you like these movies, definitely worth picking this one up. I am going to go through that remake of Dawn of the Dead once I get through some of the other films, because I believe now there might be only 2 left, Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead. Then I will go ahead and check out this remake of Dawn of the Dead again, because that's another one that's been a long time since I've seen it. So at any rate, because of that, if you are new here and you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing and hitting that little bell icon to get notification for when I put up that video. And thanks again for everybody coming by. I will have some links coming up in just a moment, and I will see you in the next one.